Hi everyone, this is Emily Hancock at the Main Library's Tech Team in Charleston County, South Carolina. Today's video will teach you how to plan a trip using Google Maps. This video is best if you have never used Google Maps before or if you are brand new and just getting your feet wet with it. I'll be doing this video on a laptop computer, but you can also use Google Maps on iOS and Android devices. Okay, let's get started. Before we dive into the live demonstration of Google Maps, here is a quick list of instructional topics that we will go over. This includes a brief review of the Google Maps try-bar menu, how to search this area, how to search for a specific location, how to pin a location, save a location, and then finally, how to find directions and then share those directions. Let's begin by looking at what the Google Maps try-bar menu has. I have typed in maps.google.com in an internet browser, and this is what comes up. You can see it's trying to geolocate me, and it does a pretty good job. It has me in the Charleston area. If I want to look at the try-bar menu, let's go over to the left-hand side of the screen and look for those three bars stacked on top of each other. If I hover over, there's the word menu. Clicking on it, I can see that there are lots of options here. I can look at a map view, a satellite view, or a terrain view. I can look at the globe, traffic, transit options, even COVID-19 info. This is December 2020, so we are still in the midst of that. I can share my location, look at my places. I can look at my contributions if I'm adding things to Google Maps. I can look at my timeline, share or embed a map, print, and then also look at my data in Maps. There are a few other options, but those are the main ones, and we won't even go over all of those today. But I do encourage you to explore once you get a little bit more comfortable using Google Maps. Next, let's look at search this area. If I want to search an area, I can go back to the try-bar menu, and then underneath there's an area right here. It says search this area. It gives you a few different preset options, like if I want to look for groceries or restaurants, takeout, hotels, and then there's even a more option. Today, let's do something, let's do takeout. So if I want to explore takeout around me in the Charleston area, I just click that button that says takeout, and it auto-populates the map here in front of me. So on the map, you can see little pins that indicate that there are restaurants that offer takeout. And then on the left-hand side of the screen, it's got the like the metadata basically of those restaurants. So I can see there's China Dragon, and see as I drag my mouse over the titles of those restaurants, as I drag the mouse over, the pins pop up or get a little bit bolder on the map. So watch as I go down to spring rolls, Asian cuisine. You can see it auto-populate there. And it's got the street address, the times, what sort of fare is offered, and pictures even. So this search the area function of Google Maps is really useful not only for if you're local to an area, maybe to discover a new place, but also if you're headed to somewhere new and don't know anything about where you are and what's around you. Speaking of going somewhere new, let's try that. This next part, we'll go over searching for a specific location, but in Los Angeles, California, rather than in Charleston, South Carolina. So here I am still looking at takeout in Charleston, South Carolina, but if I want to search for a specific location in another place, I can simply go up to the top left corner of the screen where it says takeout, and I can get rid of the text there. And today I'm going to search for Central Library in Los Angeles. So I'll just type that in. And you can see as I type, Google Maps tries to auto-guess what it is that I'm searching for. We're going to throw it for a bit of a loop here because we're going all the way over to the West Coast. So here we are looking at a Google Map view of Central Library. You can see it in the center of the map here with this sort of like red looking pin, and next to it is the word Central Library. And if I hover over that, a little picture pops up. It looks like of the inside of that library. A cool thing about Google Maps is that you can look at photos of places. This is super helpful, again, if you've never been there before, don't exactly know what you're looking for. If I go over to the left-hand column, I can look at pictures that have been uploaded by other Google Maps users. So let's try that out. I just click under Photos on one that I want to view, and it gives me this whole list of different pictures. One interesting feature to note of Google Maps is this option up in the top left corner, just underneath the word Central Library. It says Street View and 360 degrees. Let's try that out. After I have clicked on Street View and 360 degrees, this is what I see. Basically, it's a feeling as though I'm on the ground, walking among these other library patrons. Or if I scroll down a bit, there's another picture that has the Street View feature. If I click on that, it's as though I am looking inside of the library, and this is really neat. So if I want to look around me in this area, I can simply click and drag to orient myself in the space. So here, let's drag and look upward. We're actually looking at pictures of the ceiling of Central Library, which is pretty cool. And then I can turn around to the side. If I keep scrolling down this list of photos, I can find one that is actually the outside of the building. Let's click there and go to the street. So here I am as if I'm standing outside of the library. If I scroll and turn myself around, you can see there's the oncoming traffic, and there's the crosswalk as if I've just left the building. This is handy if I want to walk down the street, quote unquote, walk down the street, right? We can kind of click and go down the street. And a neat feature of this is that it's sort of dynamic. So as I move my mouse around, I can see there's this little icon here, and it says, oh, just across the street, there's a coffee bar, and I can see other things about it, like what other users have rated it. So let's just click a couple of times to get down the street. And again, there's another icon. It tells me that there's a restaurant there. So you can see how this would come in handy if you think you're going to be in an area for a while and aren't sure what's around you. You can visit it in pictures before you go there in person to see what you might like to do. Now, notice in this bottom left-hand corner, there's a little map, and there's this peg man is what it's called in Google Maps, this yellow stick figure looking thing. He is moving along as I would, as if I were on the street. So I can click and drag this map and see where he ends up. And as I click around, watch what happens. So here's Pegman in the bottom left-hand corner. Watch what happens if I click on that map. Look at the pictures on the screen. So it's moving as if it were traveling through space. Next, let's learn how to pin a location. So here I am back at having searched for Central Library in Los Angeles, California. But say I want to pin a location somewhere else. Now, searching for this library sort of pins it on the map for me, right? So here you can see that pin, which is sort of a darker red color than everything else around it. But let's say I want to pin something else. I can just simply click on the place that I want to pin. Or if you're using the app, then you would do like a long press on the place that you want to pin. It's helpful to be actually close enough so that you can see what you're pinning. I know that sounds ridiculous, but say if you're zoomed way far out, for example, if I zoom out really far, I can't really see what's on the ground anymore. And maybe that's okay for my purposes, but if you want to pin something that's really small on the screen, then you're going to need to zoom in. And if you can't tell, I'm using the zoom in and zoom out plus and minus buttons on the bottom right hand corner. So I'm going to zoom back in, and let's say I want to pin the Grand Central Market. If I hover over it, it gives me a picture, but then to pin it, I click that little icon. And now you see that has gotten sort of big and red. Next, we'll talk about how to save a location. And we'll do this in the live demonstration that I'm showing you, and I'll show you a few screenshots of how that would look if you were doing this on the Google Maps app. So here we are just having pinned Grand Central Market, but let's say I want to save Central Library as a location. To do that, I'm going to click on the little icon for Central Library, and you can see it pops up here in these options. The first option that defaults is directions, but then right next to that is the save option. And I can click there, and I'll have to sign into my Google account. Now, if you're on your phone or on another device that you're already signed into Gmail, this process will go a lot more quickly. And in fact, I will transition now to showing you some screenshots of that. So here are 3 screenshots that I've taken from my iOS phone and where I'm already logged into my Gmail account. On the left-hand side, on the far left, is the first step that we will encounter. So here I've already searched for Central Library in Los Angeles, and it's found it on the map. If you look at the bottom of that left-hand picture, you'll see the directions is still the default option that Google Maps is offering you, but then right next to that is the save option. Now the middle screenshot shows what happens after I tap the save option. It wants me to choose what list to add it to. I can choose favorites, places I want to go, or starred places. Here I've chosen places I want to go, and you can tell because there's a little blue circle with a white check mark in it. And finally, on the far right, there's a screenshot of what it looks like after I've saved Central Library as a location. It takes me sort of back to that same view that's on the very far left side of this screen, but instead of saying save in white, it says now in green that it's been saved, and I've got a little arrow that's pointing to that. Let's figure out how to find directions. So here I am still back at the Central Library in Los Angeles, California on Google Maps, and say I want to find directions from this place to a popular hiking spot in the area, Beaudry Loop Trail. To get directions, I'm going to click on the blue directions button over on the left-hand side of the screen. And it has Central Library as the ending point here, which I can tell because Central Library is listed on the bottom of the screen. But if I want to switch that and make Central Library the starting point of my journey, all I do is hit these little 2 arrows next to each other where it says reverse starting point and destination. So here I can choose the destination. I can either type it in or I can pin it on the map. I'm going to type it in today. Okay, so after I type in Beaudry Loop Trail, now it gives me a map of this journey that I could take. So at the bottom of the screen on the center here is Central Library, and then there's a blue, well, a mostly blue line that goes up to Beaudry Loop Trail. So I want to point out the sections of this line that aren't blue. Some of them are yellow and some are red, and those are indicators of traffic. So the blue means that there's not very much traffic, but yellow means there's a bit more traffic, and then red means that there's heavy traffic. Going over to the left-hand side of the screen, here's some options that I have for ways to get to this place. So these are actually different routes that I could follow. The first one is via California to North, it looks like, and it says it's the fastest route and it's going to be 20 minutes at 12.9 miles. But if I want to look at alternative routes, then I can just continue to look down the screen, and it tells me some details about those routes as well, some traffic like usual. Let's also look at the top of the left-hand side of the screen. So up here, this is sort of assuming that I'm going to go by car, and I can tell because this is all on the little personal car, like little driving option. But I could switch this if I think I'm going to take public transportation. So that's the transit icon. When I do that, see how this changes the routes on the bottom here. Or if I am feeling very ambitious, I can walk or cycle. So there's the walking icon and there is the cycling icon. There's also, if you're going a long distance, there's an option to look at if there are any flights available. Obviously there isn't here because it's a very short distance, but say if I were going to go from Los Angeles to Charleston, that flight option would definitely light up. And lastly, let's look at how to share directions. Once I've figured out which set of directions I want to follow, I can click to share. So if I want to take this via California to North, I can click here. And right on the, on the right-hand side of that screen then, there are 3 ways that I can share. So the first way is with this little mobile device with an arrow. If I click on it, it says I can send this place to a device, and I'll need to sign into my Gmail account to do that. Or I can go to the middle option. If I click there, I can send a link to somebody's Facebook, somebody's Twitter, or I can copy the link and paste it into maybe an email or a text message, or I can even choose to embed a map into someplace, maybe a website. And then the last way to share your directions is the old-fashioned way, by paper. So there's a little printer icon here, and if I click there, I have 2 different options. I can print directions that include the map that I'm looking at right now, or I can just do print only or print text only. And if I click there, this is a little preview of what it will look like. Well, that wraps up today's video. If you have any questions about Google Maps or about anything tech related, do give the tech team a call at 843-805-6885 or send us an email at techteam@ccpl.org. Thanks, and I'll see you in the library.